It wasn't the blade that ended Sophia Evergreen. It was everything that came before. Before the city stirred under that icy dawn, before the crowds assembled to see her perish, before the sharp edge fell and cleaved time apart, she had already been reduced to a shadow of herself. Imagine it, a chilly dungeon where moisture seeps from the stones like a relentless timer counting down her last moments. The odor of damp rock, isolation, forsakenness. A pair of sentries frozen in place, inhaling quietly, observing her even in slumber. A single flame dances, casting light on her features just long enough to show the hollows beneath her eyes. She shivers, not from the chill, but from the void inside. Months earlier, she had ceased to be the monarch. In this place, she bore a different label, inmate 280. This isn't some poetic legend or overblown sorrow. This is calculated erasure of a person's essence. Where lavish reflections once gleamed in gilded frames, now only slick barriers ooze. Where melodies once filled the air, now just the sputter of wax and the distant thud of footsteps in the hall. Where little ones once dashed across manicured lawns, now only agonies stab at her heart. Are they safe? Will they recall the sound of my words? In this gloomy confinement, amid this oppressive quiet, the true narrative unfolds. Not at the scaffold, not amid fiery orations, not through twisted tales. Right here, where they aim to shatter her spirit prior to ending her life. Here, where the lady who embodied opulence was reshaped into an emblem of wrongdoing. Yet, what nobody foresaw was this: the uprising failed to extinguish the one element she clung to fiercely, her poise. And that's what elevates her conclusion beyond mere retribution. Because the core inquiry isn't the manner of her passing. It's what torments they inflicted beforehand. And why wasn't the execution the harshest ordeal, but all the degradations they compelled her to suffer leading up to it? If you're drawn to this kind of profound, unvarnished chronicle, stick around. And if these immersive dives into the past captivate you, consider subscribing and giving a thumbs up. It truly aids in delivering more authentic accounts like this. 3 name options for the central figure: Sophia Evergreen, Eleanor Whittaker, or Amelia Thornton. I'll go with Sophia Evergreen and stick to it from here on. Long before she became the nation's most infamous captive, Sophia Evergreen had been a young girl uprooted from her homeland and traded like a pawn in a grand alliance. She was barely 14 when they dispatched her to the opulent court, a sprawling estate where every movement held significance, where a single look could spark whispers, and those whispers could fester into venom. In her native land, they viewed her as a link to prosperity. In her new realm, she was an outsider with an unfamiliar lilt to her speech. The roots of animosity took hold from the start. As unrest simmered, she navigated a world of illusions, jewels, and insincere grins. The palace wasn't elegance, it was performance art, and Sophia, against her will, starred in a drama she hadn't authored. When hardship struck the land, the populace's fury demanded a scapegoat they could see and despise. Officials' portraits weren't plastered on flyers. Decrees weren't scrawled on buildings. Her likeness was everywhere. The youthful ruler, the interloper, the extravagant one. Rumors morphed her into a fiendy sorceress, betrayer, debaucher. They fabricated tales, like her supposed quip about the starving masses indulging in luxuries. A falsehood so potent it solidified as fact. The upheaval didn't require evidence. It craved a detestable antagonist, and they crafted one perfectly. The ruling household attempted a desperate flight from the turmoil. They came so close, hearts pounding with the promise of escape, but a vigilant eye spotted them. The vehicle halted mere leagues from safety. As the throng hauled them back to the capital, the windows streaked with vitriol and rage. The stench of unbridled anger permeated everything. From that fateful hour, Sophia Evergreen ceased to exist as an individual. She became a mere emblem, a prize, a cautionary exhibit, the breathing incarnation of what the movement vowed to obliterate. The ensuing weeks were a gradual dismantling. First, their residence was seized, Then liberty evaporated, followed by companions, and ultimately, the deepest wound her offspring. Some insurgents believed a swift end, like her spouse's, would suffice. But the architects demanded excess. They craved spectacle and degradation. They yearned to witness her unravel before the finale. Transferring her to the grim fortress sent a tacit decree. We're done with chastising the leader. Now we dismantle the human. Gone were the fine garments, the elaborate customs, the harmonies and blooms, replaced by a stark enclosure, cold as judgment, and a ledger entry inmate 280. Though they peeled away every layer, they couldn't claim the victory they sought most, to behold her spirit fracture. Outside, the masses' loathing intensified. Yet within those sodden confines, an unforeseen resilience took shape, baffling even her adversaries. A quiet composure forged in grief. And the darkest trials were still ahead. The fortress bore an infamous moniker, the waiting room for oblivion. They guided her along a constricted passage where the atmosphere reeked of age, old dampness, and sodden fabrics. The barriers leached warmth from anyone who brushed them. Every footfall resounded like a condemnation, sealing her destiny. The warden uttered no words, merely unlocked the barrier with a prolonged, harsh groan. She stepped inside. The barrier crashed shut, echoing finality. The space was a rocky box where moments froze. A pallet of musty hay, a pail, a warped surface, a slit too elevated for the heavens, and an unending noise. Liquid trickling down the surfaces, drop by drop by drop. But the stones weren't the cruelest aspect. It was the unyielding scrutiny. 2 watchers around the clock, unblinking, mute, simply observing, tracking each inhale, each motion, each bid for self-respect. She couldn't even adjust her attire without sensing those gazes boring through her. She pleaded for solitude. They offered nothingness. Occasionally a derisive grin, sometimes just their rhythmic breaths as they stared. The oversight wasn't for protection. It was engineered to erode her. The movement aimed to topple the elite. But in this lair, the goal shifted to annihilate the female essence. Days blurred, no longer tallied in sunlight cycles, but in patrols, remote clangs, stifled sobs from fellow detainees. When an inmate was summoned for judgment, the rest lingered in thick hush, pondering if they'd return. Sophia slumbered fitfully. In dreams, she relived the nightmare that plagued her since that doomed summer eve. The barrier splintering, the yells, her 8-year-old boy, little Thomas, gripping her skirt, her fingers wrenched from his grasp. "He's just a boy," she implored, words futile yet raw with truth. That separation didn't crush the sovereign, it devastated the parent. Each daybreak commenced identically. She stirred, clammy, fumbling for the tiny likeness of Thomas tucked against her bosom, clutching it like a pulsing lifeline. That keepsake was her sole remnant. The overseers attempted seizures, rifling through her folds, crevices, palms. She defied them, safeguarding it like her very essence. At times, her only compassionate interaction came from Clara, the youthful aide who delivered meals. Clara perceived what escaped others, a lady who wept not for her plight, but for the stolen joys. She faltered only when murmuring of her young ones, reciting their names like sacred chants, Thomas and his sister Lydia, then recomposing in stillness, denying the barbarity victory. In that shadowy nook, encircled by humidity, vigilance, and scorn, Sophia grasped an insight nobody anticipated. Their torments had peaked. She'd forfeited all. And in utter loss, terror dissolves. Thus emerged the eerie tranquility that would perplex all, a serenity rooted not in optimism but in surrender. While the metropolis buzzed with gossip, proceedings, malice, and flux, the fortress housed the most hushed anguish a female divested of her core, yet enduring. To expand on her early days at court, let's delve deeper into how Sophia arrived there, a wide-eyed adolescent thrust into a viper's nest. Back in her Austrian roots, she was known as a spirited girl with a laugh that could light rooms, but politics cared little for such traits. Her family, eager for stronger ties, bundled her off with trunks of finery and an entourage of advisors whispering instructions on decorum. "Smile always, child," her mother had said, pressing a locket into her hand. "But guard your heart." The journey across borders felt eternal, carriages rumbling over rough paths, her stomach churning with excitement and dread. Upon arrival at the grand estate, the sheer scale overwhelmed her. The endless corridors lined with portraits of stern ancestors, chandeliers dripping crystals like frozen rain, gardens sprawling like painted canvases. Her betrothed, the future ruler Edmund, was kind but distant, more absorbed in state affairs than in wooing a bride. Their wedding was a spectacle, with feasts that could feed villages, yet she felt alone amid the cheers. Dialogues in those early years were stilted. Courtiers tested her with veiled barbs. "Your accent is charming, my lady," one duchess remarked with a smirk, "like a bird from distant woods." Sophia learned quickly to parry with grace. "And your welcome warms me like sunlight through those trees." But beneath the polish, homesickness gnawed, letters home pleading for familiar comforts that never came. As years passed, she bore children, each birth a mix of joy and vulnerability. Thomas arrived first, a sturdy boy with her eyes, and Lydia followed, delicate and curious. Family moments were rare treasures. Picnics in secluded groves where Thomas chased butterflies, Lydia weaving flower crowns. "Mama, why do the stars hide during day?" Lydia once asked, curled in her lap. Sophia would spin tales of celestial dances, her voice a soothing balm. But whispers grew. Her expenditures on gowns and entertainments fueled resentment among the starving. She hosted balls not out of vanity, but to foster alliances, yet pamphlets twisted it into excess. One evening, overhearing servants' gossip, she confronted them gently. "Do you believe the stories?" The maid blushed, murmuring, "We see only what they show us, ma'am." That stung, planting seeds of isolation. The economic woes deepened, harvests failing, bread prices soaring. Protests erupted, and fingers pointed at her. "The foreign spendthrift drains our coffers." Crowds chanted. Sophia urged Edmund to act in private chambers. "We must help them. Open the stores." He sighed. "It's more complex, my dear." But inaction bred fury. Then came the infamous fabrication claims. She dismissed hunger with callous words about sweets. She never uttered them, yet they spread like wildfire. In a heated council, she defended herself. "I would give my own meals if it eased their pain." Skeptical eyes met hers. The damage done. The escape attempt was a whirlwind of secrecy. Disguised as commoners, they piled into a coach under moonless skies. Thomas clutched a toy horse, whispering, "Is this an adventure?" "Mama," she forced a smile. The grandest one. Miles blurred, hope rising, until betrayal struck. A innkeeper's suspicion led to capture. The return journey was hellish. Jeers thrown refused, Thomas sobbing in her arms. "Why do they hate us?" he asked. She had no answer, only held him tighter. Post-capture, confinement tightened. They were housed in a lesser tower, guards omnipresent. Friends vanished, letters intercepted. Sophia taught her children lessons in whispers: history, languages, morals. "Kinness endures," she'd say. But the separation loomed. One stormy night, revolutionaries burst in. "The boy must learn the people's ways," they declared. Thomas screamed as they pried him away. "Mama! Don't let them!" His cries echoed long after. Lydia was taken soon after, to relatives, they claimed. Sophia collapsed, wailing into the emptiness. In the fortress, days merged into a monotonous haze. Clara became a lifeline. One afternoon, as she set down bread and water, Sophia confided, "Tell me of the world outside. Is spring blooming?" Clara hesitated, then described budding flowers, children's laughter, and streets. "Your strength inspires me," Clara admitted. Sophia touched her hand. "We all carry burdens, mine just echo louder." To illustrate the surveillance's toll, consider a particular incident. Late one evening, needing to relieve herself, Sophia requested the guards avert eyes. "Turn away, please," she said softly. One sneered, "No secrets here, prisoner." Humiliated, she proceeded under their gaze, cheeks burning. Yet she straightened afterward, meeting their stares. "Your watch changes nothing within me." That defiance simmered unspoken. Another layer, her health declined. The dampness bred coughs, fevers. A physician visited reluctantly, prescribing herbs. "You're resilient," he noted. She replied wryly, "Necessity breeds it." Dreams haunted her, visions of Edmund's execution, his final words lost to wind. She mourned him privately, tracing his ring's outline. The trial's eve brought reflection. Pacing the cell, she recalled court intrigues. A rival lady, once jealous, had spread lies about affairs. Jealousy poisons, Sophia had told her then. Now it all seemed petty. On that fateful October morning in 1793, before light pierced the gloom, the warden's strides disrupted the routine. Sophia raised her head deliberately. She recognized the omen. The portal swung wide, lantern glow slicing in like a dagger. She rose with a steadiness that unnerved even her constant observers. They marched her through the fortress's clammy veins. The scent of mildew, perspiration, and lingering dread hung heavy. Troops lining the path doffed caps as she proceeded, not in reverence, but because her aura commanded hush. The revolt hadn't quenched her inherent grace. Emerging into the crisp air hit like a slap. She donned the somber gown she'd worn grieving Edmund. She advanced upright, deliberate, unshaken. The assembly hall brimmed, not justice's seat, but a stage for the masses to ogle the figure they'd been taught to revile. Magistrates perched elevated, accusers and clerks aside. A throng eager for drama ahead. Centrally, a plain seat compelled her presence. Prosecutor Harlan Voss launched with a timbre crafted for incitement, each utterance a thrust for acclaim. Betrayal of the realm, collusion with outsiders, lavish waste of funds, erosion of societal virtues, a catalogue of offenses penned by foes. Sophia absorbed it wordlessly, replying only when pressed with concise, resolute statements, not to sway. Aware the doom was scripted ages prior, the court craved theater. Then unfolded the most abhorrent charge, stunning even seasoned agitators, that she'd violated her own boy, Thomas. A chill swept the chamber. Even stalwarts averted glances. She sat immobile, unyielding, breath steady. The bench anticipated rebuttal, spectators outrage, sentries breakdown. Silence reigned. Sophia ascended gradually, ignoring accuser, bench, scribblers with smirks. She addressed the everyday women permitted entry. Those who'd rallied against the palace, hurled slurs, pursued her. With unwavering tone, almost nurturing, "I call upon every mother present." No elaboration needed. The space iced over. Whispers faded. Tears welled in some eyes. In that breath, the caricatured villain dissolved. The despised leader transformed into her true self, a parent ripped from her young. She resumed her seat, spent. She'd conveyed all. Voss pounded in rage, but the vibe shifted. Antipathy lingered. Yet now humanity pierced through. The proceedings dragged 2 additional days. Verdict inevitable, culpable of grave disloyalty. Penalty termination. Queried for final words, "What else remains?" Her composure outshone the scripted farce. Amid cheers, an unforeseen potency surfaced, not from regalia, but affliction. The movement sought to obliterate the sovereign, but birthed the indomitable female. To flesh out the trial's intensity, envision the cross-examinations. Witnesses paraded, former servants bribed or coerced. One ex-maid claimed overhearing plots. She whispered of foreign aid. The woman lied. Sophia countered calmly, "Recall our talks of charity, not conspiracy." The crowd murmured, doubt-seating. Another, a disgruntled advisor, accused extravagance. "Gowns worth fortunes while we starved." She responded, "Those events sealed pacts that fed armies." Debates raged, her logic piercing veils of hate. Personal anecdotes emerged. A spectator, a baker's wife, later confessed. Her eyes held no malice, only sorrow. Dialogues with defenders were sparse. Her advocate, timid, argued weakly. "She's a victim of circumstance," he pleaded. Voss scoffed. Circumstance she crafted. The night preceding her end, Sophia re-entered her confines ethereal. The hearing concluded eons ago, but the ruling's burden pressed eternally. Crossing the threshold, Clara beheld her ashen, a faint quiver in her grasp. The fortress's hush that eve differed, thicker, weightier, as if the structure sensed her doom. Sophia settled at the scarred plank, where she'd oft leaned to grieve tearlessly. She withdrew parchment, a frayed pen, inhaled profoundly. The taper wavered dimly, elongating shades encircling her, and she commenced scripting. Not of wrongs, not of spite, of affection for her sibling-in-law Beatrice, for Lydia, for Thomas, the lad obscured since severance. Her script gentle, near murmur. Spare my boy blame, they manipulated him. Deceived my love persists, she affirmed eternal maternity, even beyond. He needn't bear forced utterances load. Forgiveness flowed. Each line liberated fragments of her fatigued spirit. Her ethical legacy, mercy over bitterness, tenderness over enmity. Finishing, she placed the missive openly. The flame glinted on damp ink briefly. That dispatch never graced kin's palms. Insurgents seized and secreted it, deeming even farewells perilous. Clara observed her exhale, snuffing the light manually. Shall I fetch sustenance? Mom! A tender smile, improbable in captivity, no dear. My chapter closes, she genuflected on chill slabs, supplicating. Not for rescue, not wonders. For fortitude in facing demise fearlessly. Tranquility for her progeny. Pardon for detractors. Rising, her visage altered, no strife, mere peace. She dozed briefly, cranium on limb, where she'd inscribed her adieu. Respiration languid, profound, body yielding what mind embraced prior. Dawn heralded warden's approach anew. Portal jarred. Brusque proclamations. The hour strikes. Sophia aligned unhurriedly. Clara wept. The captive clasped her palms, murmuring, Weep not for me. Agony's excess numbs death's sting. Directives ensued, attire swap. Privacy beseeched, mockery ensued. Compelled behind flimsy veil, visible still, they proffered coarse pale shift, formless, historyless, garb for departure. Then natter hair must go. Executioner Harlan decreed. She inclined wordlessly. Blunt blades sheared locks, pallid from terror. Seclusion wariness cascading like life's relics. Done, Harlan intoned. Wrists bind. Serene retort tinged melancholy. My beloved walked unbound. Silence. Cord cinched, imprinting flesh. Sans tear. Sans quiver. She advanced to threshold. The instant dawned, she'd confronted her way with unyielding grace. Expanding on that final night, Sophia reflected on lost joys. Memories flooded. Edmund's proposal under starlit skies, awkward yet sincere. Will you share this burden? He'd asked. With you. It's no burden, she replied. Their union's early bliss, before shadows. Children's births, Thomas's first wail, Lydia's tiny fingers. Family outings, laughter echoing. But regrets too, ignoring pleas from the poor, trusting schemers. If only I'd listened, she whispered to shadows. Clara, risking peril, shared news. Whispers say your children live, guarded. Hope flickered briefly. Tell them I loved beyond words. Sophia urged. Clara nodded, tears streaming. The binding ritual symbolized ultimate control. As cords tightened, she winced but held firm. Pain is fleeting, she thought. Harlan, hardened by trade, paused momentarily. Her calm unnerved him. You've spirit, he muttered. She met his eyes. We all do, until crushed. The fortress exit parted eternally. Sophia poised, as if anticipating for ages. Due ahead, one trailing. She progressed measuredly, fettered arms, shorn tresses vision forward. Frigid morn assailed instantly. Mist shrouded the metropolis, veiling impending spectacle. Courtyard housed rudimentary wagon for felons. No exemptions in demise. She mounted solo, stance erect, body denying submission. Vehicle lurched gradually. Cobble jolts swayed her, she grasped not, absorbing brutality as detached. Hoof clatters reverberated vacant avenues, soon voids filled with murmurs. Progression drew folk from dwellings, stalls, lanes. Insults flew, chuckles rang. Some observed mutely. Yet her reticence disturbed most, not hatred. Sophia rebuffed no taunt, gaze unwavering, tearless, unbegging, fixed on horizon, transcending reach. From a ledge, illustrator Marcus Reed, Revolt's recorder, spied her transit. He sketched swiftly, not the adorned icon of yore, but austere, resolute, radiant in poise. That serenity immortalized her twilight. To add depth, picture the route's vignettes. A child wide-eyed tugged mother's skirt, as that the bad lady. Mother hushed, hush, see her strength. An elder veteran of wars doffed hat genuinely. She walks like a warrior. Insults varied, traitor, but some faltered, seeing her unbowed. Sophia's thoughts wandered to Thomas's games, Lydia's songs. Be brave, my loves, she willed silently. A brief halt at a crossing, a vendor offered water. She declined politely, kindness noted, but unnecessary. The gesture rare, highlighted lingering humanity amid chaos. Wagon veered ultimate bend. The plaza gaped like a scar. Multitudes crammed round platform. The apparatus towering somber, sliced ashen firmament like steel spire, dominating. Vehicle halted. Harlan alighted first, extended aid. She regarded him, gentle gratitude. But I manage. Steps groaned ascent, bound limbs challenged equilibrium, yet aid unsought. Gusts billowed her garb, rendering her ethereal momentarily. Positioning on slab, her soul grazed executioners. Trivial mishap, yet her swan song. Pardon, sir, she breathed. Unintentional. No oratory, no theatrics. Just contrition, modesty so jarring that haters felt constriction. Slab-inclined gears strained. Utter stillness blanketed expanse. Cosmos paused, then steel descent, crisp impact, closure. Throng detonated. Viva the cause! Viva the people! Harlan hoisted her crown by faded strands, parading to hordes. Triumph theirs, liberation hers. Some attested oddity, serenity etched, violence unmarred. Corpse discarded in communal pit. Sans right, sans stone, just earth quiet. Interred as offender, yet remembrance defied burial. That murmured regret before doom symbolized amid savagery, grace persists. Years hence, locating remains elusive. Designation purged deliberately. Agitators fancied tales eternal end, but icons defy soil. Decades later, bones unearthed, relocated to ancestral vault. The denied sovereign claimed repose. Crucially, Sophia Evergreen endured national scorn, demolition. Forfeited throne, progeny, liberty, identity. All essence methodically excised. Yet in terminus, she revealed unforeseen to slayers elegance. They claimed all, save that. Poise isn't bestowed or pilfered, chosen, especially when existence insists fracture. Thus, pivotal query, what terrified more? Bejeweled potentate, or cart-bound female, tresses shorn, limbs secured, unyielding. Annals recall her as label, fable, excesses parable, revolts. Yet deeper parent cherishing offspring to gasp's end. Female electing mercy over reprisal, essence proving muted defiance mightiest. Blade-felled form, not soul. That's inheritance uprising couldn't slay. If this tale stirred you, subscribe, like, and share in comments what raced her mind as edge plummeted. Sophia's judged eras seldom comprehended. But let's not stop at the surface. To truly grasp her ordeal, consider the broader canvas of her life, woven with threads of privilege and peril. Born into Austrian nobility, Sophia, then a playful child named Anna, grew amid rolling hills and scholarly tutors. Her father, a stern diplomat, drilled her in languages and etiquette. The world is a chessboard, he'd say. Learn your moves. Mother, softer, taught embroidery and compassion. Power without heart is hollow. At 12, betrothal news arrived like a storm. You'll bridge empires. Father beamed. She wept privately, fearing the unknown. The crossing to her new home was arduous. Weeks of jolting rides, border checks, farewells to siblings. Arrival brought culture shock, French customs stricter, fashion bolder. Her wedding to Edmund was lavish, thousands feasting while she nibbled nervously. Honeymoon whispers, tell me of your dreams, Edmund urged. To be loved, not just useful, she confessed. He promised effort, but duties pulled him away. Court life was a labyrinth, factions vied, conservatives, reformers. Sophia allied with artists, hosting salons. One poet dedicated verses, her grace outshines the sun. But envy brewed. A countess, spurned, spread affair rumors. Confronted, Sophia said, lies wither in truth's light. Scandals mounted, finances strained. She advocated reforms, taxed the wealthy fairly. She argued in councils, ignored. Frustration grew. Children brought light. Thomas's bird midwives cheering, Edmund proud our future, he declared. Lydia's quieter, Sophia cradling her, my little star. Parenting amid chaos, bedtime stories of heroes, lessons in empathy, treat all as equals, she instructed, but shadows lengthened, debts piled, riots sparked. The cake myth originated from a satire, amplified by presses. Sophia learned of it via advisor. They claim you mocked the hungry. Outrage absurd, I'd share my table. Attempts to counter, charity drives, visits to poorhouses. In one, a widow grasped her hand. You see us, always, Sophia replied, but propaganda drowned goodwill. Escape planning was meticulous. Disguises sewn, routes mapped. Night of departure, hugging children. Quiet adventure, she soothed. Close call at border, guard suspicious. Papers. Heart racing, they passed briefly, but pursuit ensued. Capture, rough hands, screams. Back in Capitol House arrest. Dialogues with captors. We'll fight for justice, one said. So do I, differently, she countered. Separation from children, Thomas dragged away, kicking. I want mama, Lydia, tearful, don't go, Sophia's pleas. Their innocence, ignored. Alone she fasted in protest, weakening. Fortress life routines grim. Meals sparse, bread thin soup. Clara smuggled extras for strength. Conversations deepened. What dreams had you? Sophia asked. Clara, a family piece. Hold them close, advised. Health was rheumatism from cold. Self-care with rags, herbs. Dreams vivid, reunions, freedoms. Waking to reality stung. Trial preparations, lawyers dismissed evidence. Fabrications, her defender argued. Witnesses perjured. One recanted privately. Forced to lie. Too late. During hearing. Emotional peaks. Incest accusation gasps. Her appeal to mothers, women nodded. Empathetic, vos presta diniet. Mothers know truth, she said. Atmosphere shifted, hate tempered by pity. Post-verdict, cell return, Clara consoled. Unfair. Sophia, life often is. We choose response. Final letter, poured heart. To Beatrice, sister, guide them. To Lydia, bloom strong. To Thomas, forgive yourself. I do. Prayer, seeking inner peace. Grant me dignity and end. Dawn execution, rising composed. Farewell to Clara, live fully for us both. Hair cutting, locks falling, memories attached. Court balls, children's tugs. Binding marks like badges. Endures, she thought. Procession, wagon ride, enduring jeers. Internal monologue, gratitude for life's gifts. Forgiveness for foes. Plaza arrival. Masses varied, vengeful, curious, sympathetic. Ascent steady. Apology, human touch and inhumanity. Fall swift. Legacy, enduring spirit. But to enrich further, imagine untold moments. Early marriage strains, arguments with Edmund over policies. You're too lavish, he chided. It's diplomacy, she retorted. Reconciliations tender. Friendships a lady in waiting, faithful till end. Letters smuggled, hold on. Public appearances, waving to crowds, masking fears. Revolutionary encounters, debating a leader. Change needed, he said. Not through blood, she warned. Children's education, teaching Thomas maps, Lydia arts. World's yours, she encouraged. Fortress reflections, regretting naivety. If I'd seen suffering sooner. Clara's backstory, orphaned, sympathetic. Bond like mother-daughter. Trial side stories, a juror's doubt, voting guilty reluctantly. Execution witnesses, a soldier's memoir. Her calm shamed us. Posthumous children's fates, Thomas broken. Lydia resilient. Symbolism from opulence to austerity, external stripped, internal fortified. Her story echoes universal themes, resilience amid adversity, motherhood's power, forgiveness's strength, if moved engage below.